Hey guys, I probably should have gotten off the Wi-Fi. Whatever. Hi. I hope you are well, or as well as you possibly can be, given not only the circumstances of existing, but also like this astrological weather is it's so insane that like I feel like I felt it. Girl, not the hair. Hi, thank you for joining. I feel like I have felt this astrological weather like almost 3 different ways within the past hour. Like, it is such a crazy time. And I wrote out a newsletter that if you aren't subscribed to, definitely subscribe to it because it has like all of the tea. But I wanted to come in and just kind of give a little brief synopsis on what this like retrograde season, this eclipse season, this full moon that's coming up this week, like what this means for us and why. Am I on Lolly La Luna? Am I on the right? Yes, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm absolutely going insane. I'm losing it. So, okay, the first thing sorry, it keeps pausing. Someone keeps calling me. Okay, I'm focused. I'm here. This is insane for a number of reasons. Retrogrades always typically bring up feelings of just feeling like I'm a little bit overwhelmed and unable to process my own emotions. It's coupled with so many different things. The first thing that I want to say is that we are in Gemini season, which Gemini is ruling the mind, right, alongside our shadow period of Mercury retrograde. So like your mind can be in a lot of different places and communication can kind of be a lot right now. So if you're feeling like you're a bit impulsive with your words right now, if you're feeling a little bit like I don't really know how to process my emotions, I'm just kind of spitting them out, find some sort of peace and like being more intentional with the way that you show up, with the way that you communicate. Know how to, instead of speaking through a lens of like erratic emotion, trying to find some sort of foundation with self, but ultimately working alongside with the fact that we're mentally stimulated right now. So embarking on any like creative endeavors, on any like projects that are coming up in your mind, now is a beautiful time to like plan out what that looks like for you. I wouldn't say execute, but I would say to plan out. But that's kind of like, I don't want to say that's the only like positive. I don't subscribe to duality. I don't see anything as good or bad, but I will say that's like the easiest energy to work with. Outside of that, we have Pluto and Saturn that are both in retrograde. We have this eclipse coming up on Wednesday and obviously it's a full moon, Sagittarius, and it's a lot. The way that Pluto is working in this is it's kind of bringing to the surface a lot of the ways in which we subscribe to fear. It's bringing a lot of like our subconscious ways of thinking, the ways that we limit ourselves in terms of like believing in our own power, our limiting beliefs, and just also like our toxic traits, right? We're kind of forced to take accountability right now, but it's a beautiful thing to do because when you take accountability alongside Saturn retrograde, which is asking for us to like be disciplined with the way that we navigate these waters. The thing is, whatever you're dealing with right now, I promise you, and I'm very sure of this isn't the first time that you're dealing with this, right? Like whatever themes are coming up, whatever choices are being asked of you right now, this isn't a new experience, right? Eclipses are really faded times, but they're also like cyclical. So whatever decisions are being made, whatever form of bravery life is asking of you right now, you've been asked of it before. And it's important to recognize the fact that you are now being asked of it in a different space. You have now grown, you've learned better, you know what it is that's actually in alignment with your worth and what you need to let go of. And so now that we have these tools, we're being faced with the same questions and the same like call to action that we always have been, but we're expected to actually approach it with a sense of like responsibility and sensible bravery, right? Sensible bravery. Oh, my brain is on 4%. But ultimately, yes, I say that to say that like with Pluto and Saturn working alongside each other, there's this element of like, how can I put responsibility towards my fears? How can I know that I'm never going to be fearless, right? There's never going to be a time where I don't feel the normal emotion that is fear, right? That means that I'm human. That means that I'm alive. That means my heart is beating. But how am I going to approach fear as something that I can work alongside instead of something that controls me? Right now, we're really just being called to like, you know, retrogrades are all about reviewing and revising and re-editing. So it's like the rose-colored lens that we tend to look through, the way that we romanticize our lives, it's kind of getting a little bit shattered right now, but it's getting shattered so that we can actually look at it through the lens of rationality. Like, okay, yes, I'm co-creating with the universe, but there's some action that needs to be poured into that co-creation. Like, yes, I'm going to have to actually start thinking differently and not abiding by such like limiting ways of thinking and holding myself anchored in past versions of myself. There is not a single doubt in my mind that you will not leave this season. We never leave an eclipse or a retrograde season feeling anything short of transformed or different or, you know, more evolved. So know that whoever you are right now, you're going to meet a completely different version of yourself at the end of this. And that is the most beautiful thing. Know that, you know, change and transformation is not an easy thing. It's typically uncomfortable, but we're being told and guided and dancing with the discomfort, and that you are not alone. I'm feeling all of the things with you, but yeah, it just, sometimes change looks like, you know, I'm going to say some affirmations. I'm going to believe in myself a bit more. And sometimes it looks like, oh shit, I'm the toxic one. And like recognizing that, hi, thank you for joining. And yeah, and just recognizing the fact that like everything right now is very like karmically fated, especially when Pluto is playing a role. So know that any themes that are coming up right now, anything that life is asking of you right now, hello, my queen, I'm so happy you're all of this was in the newsletter. So like feel free to, because I'm just saying it into words, but basically know that us on the other side of this season, us at the end of June, also like October as well, but just us on the other side of this is the most utmost potential of self. Like there's no possible way that without the uprooting that is inevitably happening right now, we aren't going to be met with the versions of ourselves that are actually just living in alignment with what we've learned about ourselves, right? That's all Saturn wants from you. Saturn is like that, like tough love stepfather that's like, if you learned all these lessons, if you've fallen this many times and you figured out how to get up, are you going to actually implement what you've learned into now, like sort of being in the field with it, right? So yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any other like notes that I missed, but this is really fated energy. So know that taking advantage of what's going on right now is really important in terms of your own evolution. Like you deserve to rise to the occasion, because right now you could kind of just blind yourself to everything that's happening and just know that like, no, there's no call to action. I can just stay comfortable in my comfort zone. But so much of life can be lived in our minds if we like look at every path and, you know, predict every outcome. But Saturn right now, especially alongside Pluto, which Pluto just wants rebirth for you. It just wants transformation of you. They're just coming to say like, are you going to continue to think about what life can be, or are you going to actually start to take those leaps of faith that are never going to feel easy? They're never going to feel shallow, but they are going to be there when you're ready to jump. And it's kind of time to jump. It's kind of time to recognize what like just approaching life rationally, but also bravely looks like. Like sensible bravery is like a word that keeps coming up lately. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else, but yeah, approaching your fears and anxieties with discipline. And yeah, just know that things may be confusing right now. It's important to know that where you end up on the end of this is exactly where you're supposed to end up, but you may not have a handle on like what the journey there looks like. So if things unfold, and like eclipse season and retrograde seasons are like notorious for being really distorted and confusing and hard to like maintain. So know that if the journey itself looks a bit weird and you're like, where exactly am I going? This isn't the plan. Just trust, let go, control what you can control, which is how you react to it. And know that you're co-creating, you're in a divine dance. And so everything that is falling apart right now, everything that is feeling exasperated is meant to. But yeah, like I said, and I really want to drive home, the themes that are showing up right now are not brand new. Eclipses will resurface things. So if there's any fear that is arising right now, I promise you it's not new. And if you think it's new, go to the root of it and you'll realize like, no, I've dealt with this before, but I'm different now. I'm evolved now. I know myself better now. I know what I want now. And I'm going to approach this fear with rationality. I'm going to do it alongside Saturn, which is going to help me be disciplined with the way that I approach this fear, knowing that it's always going to have a seat within me. So it's not about being fearless, but rather like recognizing it, knowing that, you know, it's just your ego trying to protect you, and you need that sometimes, but also you don't need it to stifle you either. And utilize this sun in Gemini, so much concentration in Gemini, honestly. Yes, a lot of it is retrograde, but like Gemini really is here to say, you also are allowed to have fun, right? Life is always going to be at some point some sort of under construction thing, but we can make it light if we come back to what it means to find community, to rebuild who we are socially. So know that like outside of everything that's going on in terms of like a lot of internal uprooting, you can also pour yourself into what you define fun to be right now. We're going into hot girl summer, we're vaxxed and we're waxed. So make sure that you're finding sacred community and that you're like forfeiting some sort of vulnerability there. I think that's going to be really healing. Hi, thank you for joining, my queen. And yeah, it's like right now is a big reality check. That's also a word that's been coming up right now. just like a reality check. Anytime that we have a season like this that's so transformative, like I've mentioned, that like rose-colored filter, that romanticization, the way that we romanticize life is kind of going to be put on the back burner. We're going to have to see things clearly and as they are, which is important because that's kind of how we're going to see, like, is this actually nourishing me or am I deluding myself a little bit? But through seeing things for what they are, what was I going with that? I forgot what I was going with that. See, that's the Mercury retrograde. Honestly, my mind has been on like literally 4% these days. Well, yes, if you see things as they are, you can actually figure out what is nourishing, what isn't, and you will have the power and the space to remove it, to call in and make room for what is even greater. I feel like that isn't what I was going to say. Also, accountability. Accountability is a big word that's coming up right now. Taking accountability for the role that we're playing in hurting ourselves, in holding ourselves back, and marrying ourselves to expectations that no one else consented to. You know what I mean? Just coming back to reality a bit is really important. And yeah. So long story short, if you want the more like succinct version of that, definitely subscribe to the newsletter because I wrote it out in layman terms. But otherwise, this was kind of a little update on what's going on right now. Ultimately, it's definitely a lot. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of accountability and I hate it. Approaching your fears with discipline, looking back to look forward, right? So look at the ways in which you have learned these lessons in different forms and different shapes and implement them into how you move forward right now. Build a healthy relationship with fear. Build a healthy relationship with discipline, but also gift yourself the space to acknowledge how far you have come before Saturn just like tries to beat down on you and makes you think that you haven't come far. You have. So recognize how far you have come, but what that took and how you want to implement that moving forward. And review the ways in which cycles coming up now have come up in the past, which has been huge for me. Faded energy. So some journaling prompts to work with. Especially, I think this one is important because anytime Pluto is playing the role that it's playing right now, we're kind of being invited to assume the role of like our highest potential. So ask yourself, like, what is my why? What is my purpose? Like, what is the grand scheme of things here so that I don't get lost in the sauce of it? Thank you for joining. And what ways do I need to come back to reality? In what ways have I been looking at life through a distorted lens? And how can I actually see it for what it is and invite in my own clarity? How have I been too hard on myself? And what ways can I be more disciplined? So a little bit harder on myself. And just ultimately, like, what transformation are you calling in for you? I promise you're not going to recognize yourself in Cancer season. I promise you, whether you're moving or something like within your own identity is getting shifted, know that like we're on the precipice of a lot of reconstruction. So, what is it that you want to change and what can you be intentional about changing? So that's the tea. I hope you are well. I'm going through it with you. I've had 12 emotions just in the past 4 minutes. So I know that this is a lot. Pay attention to your dreams too. Pluto retrograde is going to be all about the subconscious. I'm trying to move to Miami. Listen, it's also so worth noting that like, this has the potential to skyrocket us into our highest possible timeline, as long as we are brave enough to recognize what decisions are in alignment with that. And that means, for you specifically moving to Miami, it means actually like taking the leap of faith and, closing shop on things that need to close up and opening yourself up to like what it means to take the action, which it's all about co-creation. So know that like, if this ever feels like a lot, if this is ever anxiety inducing, that it's just change is sometimes that. But at the other side of it is like the best. I can't wait. Oh, my love. I'm so excited to see how it unfolds for all of us. I can't wait to meet her too. I know I'm excited to meet myself. I'm like watching the ways that like I have to take accountability and own some bravery. And I'm like, or I could just eat a pear, right? But like, no, we should do this. So I'm sending you all my love for my GC sisters. I'll see you literally every single day for the rest of my life. And otherwise, stay strong. Love you. Bye.